Drag racing fan, Monday morning racer. We are live for Between the Slicks, and I think we've got two great guests lined up tonight for this drag racing talk show. We're going to be talking from the modern world of NHRA drag racing with Top Fuel to the nostalgia ranks with really what is the premier gasser league in the world. So, as these guys are getting ready, set to go, Quain Stott and Joe Morrison, let me share with you a few partners, all right? Partners I've got, first off, foremost, definitely got to mention and thank strutmasters.com. By the way, they are now offering air suspension for trucks. So check out strutmasters.com for your air suspension needs on your truck, new or even old. Check them out. And also for any of your, air to conversion kits that you might need for that dragging Mercedes that you thought was going to be your luxury high rolling ride, and it's letting you down. Check out strutmasters.com. Also, Gearhead Coffee. Yeah, there it is. Let me turn it right. Gearhead Coffee, sipping on it right now. The Beadlock Texas Pecan. That's my favorite out of all that they have. You can get whole beans from them, ground beans. You can get it in bags, large bags, small bags. They have a CBD line. They also have K-Cups, or as they like to call them, piston cups. So, get you some Texas Pecan. Don't argue with me about that pronunciation. Coffee, enjoy it for sure. So, tonight, lastly, let me also mention Hero Soap Company. Hero Soap Company is a company that's producing all-natural, essential oils infused soap that is veteran-owned, and they also support veterans as well. So, if you need to clean up, let Freedom clean you with Hero Soap Company. Well, let me bring in the first guest that I want to bring in tonight. Joe is in studio. We're going to give him just a little bit more time to get ready to come on in. So I'm going to bring in Quain Stott. Now, Quain, he's been racing since the mid-'70s, been a drag racing fan all his life. He has, for just about 20 years, he professionally raced Pro Mod throughout the United States of America, and definitely, namely, the IHRA. He's also a champion in that sanctioning body. But he is currently the, I would say, founder, owner, promoter, the big chief concerning Southeast Gassers Association. So, Quain, look, man, it's awesome to have you on tonight. Thank you for the honor and the privilege. How's it going in North Carolina?
Going great, James, and thank you for having me on. As I told you before, I don't do a lot of interviews, but I've seen the need to do yours because I think you're doing a great job, and I think you'll promote us like we need to be promoted. So we agreed to do it, and I think we'll have a good time.
Man, look, thank you for being on. It's definitely an honor. And if you will just hang on one moment, we're going to bring in our next guest, and we'll come right back to you, Quain. The other guest we have tonight is Joe Morrison. Joe, man, how's it going? You, the newest licensed Top Fuel NHRA driver. How's it going tonight?
Fantastic, actually. Like I said to you at the track, Lee, I still don't think my feet have touched the ground yet.
I'm sure they haven't. I mean, to accomplish that goal, to really be driving the fastest accelerating machines on the planet and doing it at the highest level in NHRA drag racing, that is stellar, man. That is stellar. So it's awesome that you were able to accomplish that. Look, let me ask you really the first question of the night. This weekend, you've got drag racing. You're not waiting for Indy 3. You have a race to get to this weekend. Talk to me what you're in, what other drag racing you're doing, and where you'll be at.
Gotcha. So I will be back at my home track of Island Dragway. Literally the track I've been going to since before I was born. My mom was working in the timing tower there while she was pregnant with me. My dad was a racer there before I was born. So it's great to be coming back to Island Dragway. It's their 60th anniversary race this weekend. Hard to believe it, right? Obviously, that track was in existence before I was racing there. So great to be supporting Melissa and Carl Milano. I will be driving Rocky Perrone's Super Camaro Nostalgia Alcohol Funny Car. Boy, is that car fun to drive. I've driven the Frantic Ford for Rocky for a number of years, and Rocky's a great guy, good friend of mine, and I'm honored that he's letting me drive the car this weekend. So it's a whole lot of fun. Supercharged Hemi on methanol, 3-speed Lenco. It's a glide style clutch, but I'm going to be revving the motor up a bit and dumping the clutch and hitting the buttons, changing gears. And this car will run low sixes. I think the top speed this thing is about 232, 233 miles an hour. So Island's got a short shutdown. I'll be quick on those shoots, and we'll see how far we push it. And I get to match race my buddy George Riedenauer in the Excalibur Corvette. Again, alcohol funny car. And George's car was testing at Maple Grove, and he just ran a low six. I think it was a 620 flat he ran in the heat. So, man, it's going to be a good race. I can tell you, I better be on my game on the starting line, because if I don't do my job as a driver, George is going to make me look bad. So yeah, it'll be a fun weekend. A bunch of nostalgia classes. NITO, which is the Northeast Timing Organization, which is the group that I used to run with. I'm blessed to be a former champion of that group too. And so NITO, there's going to be some nostalgia funny cars. My friend Roy is tuning Chuck Exton's Devil's Fuel Nitro nostalgia funny car too, and that car will be out there too. And I'm looking forward to see Chuck run and Roy turning the screws on that thing.
Well, looks like you've got a great weekend stacked up there, Joe. And, man, I wish I could be up there. Sounds like it's going to definitely be a great event. Definitely going to be a great event. Folks, look, as we are going through this show, if you want to ask a question for Joe, you want to ask a question for Quain, you want to ask a question for the Monday Morning Racer, definitely chime in the comment section. Hit that share button. Hit that like button. Let people know about Between the Slicks here on Monday Morning Racer. So, Quain, look, man, everybody's been raving. I've been seeing it on social media. You with the Southeast Gasser Association, y'all had a great past weekend and race. Talk to me about it. How did this last race go for you guys?
Well, believe it or not, James, we've had a great year. We've only been allowed to race 3 times this year, and we should have had 5 by now. But we've had really not record-setting attendance, but we've had great attendance at all 3 of our races so far this year, and which impressed me because I figured we was going to race in front of empty bleachers, which, as you know, is very embarrassing. I can't stand the thoughts of nobody coming to watch a show, but this year it's been great. And the last race, Lyons, Indiana, it was a packed house. And you got to know this track's out in the middle of a cornfield, so it's not like it's in the middle of a city or something. And we had 70 race cars. I think by the first round we only had 69. One broke, but 70 Southeast Gasser legal cars, not just 70 random gassers or super stockers. This was 70 Southeast Gasser legal cars, and that's a great number for all that's going on in the world right now. So we're pinching ourselves. Unbelievable how well the year's been going.
Well, Quain, look, that's great to hear that y'all are having the success in 2020. 2020 is that year, as I've been saying, with a big asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
It's definitely going down in the record books of being a different year. So I'm glad that Sega's having a good year. And, one reason why you're able to have a good year in such a challenging year is really because and due to your formula that you have with all these gassers, because they are truly gassers. The way I like to look at it and think about it is, Quain, I've done an American Revolutionary reenactment, so I've been on field and marched and paraded, yep. And there's regiments that, they really dive into the memoirs and they try to get even, every button, every stitch just so right. And then there's other regiments that are like, we look close enough. Well, you're that regiment that wants to get everything just right and have what I would think is almost like a reenacting of drag racing in its earliest days and with the gassers. So talk to me about your formula. Talk to me about the rules. Talk to me about why y'all are doing what you're doing.
You're exactly right, and that's the best way I've ever heard anybody put it. Is a reenactment, like you were doing a reenactment of the war. You wouldn't want to be out there with machine guns. Well, that's the way I look at a gasser that rolls in with a set of whale wheels on it. And we designed this thing 10 years ago now, and when I'd come up with it, I figured we wouldn't have any participation. And I didn't care. I said, well, first off, let me say this, why we designed it. I ran ProMod for 19 years and I made a great living. And we had the best equipment money could buy, but I had a race car that anybody could drive. It ran big numbers. It was 250 miles an hour, but it was not a challenge to drive because I'd been doing it all my life. So I wanted to put the talent back into the sport, and I just decided to design a class that was like it was back in the old days, and that's why we mandate the 4-speed, mandatory 4-speed transmission, mandatory clutch shifts. My Pro Mod car was 2 seconds faster than any gasser I've ever drove, but the gasser is twice as hard to drive because we mandate old style suspensions, we mandate ladder bars, no coilover shocks. We have 22 pages of rules, 22 pages, and that makes the racers build the cars. We say you're having to build a car wrong on purpose because that's exactly what we're doing. If you was going to build a race car to run today, there's no way you would build it like we're making these people build these gassers, because it wouldn't make any sense to build it that way. But to race with our group, you have to. And we even down to tire size, we trying to run the same size tire that was ran in 1967. The manual transmission, of course, the straight axle front suspension, the no coilover shocks. I could just go on and on and on. I could bore you all day with the strict rules we have. And I didn't think, I knew I figured we'd get a few racers, and older people like myself. I'm 60 years old now, and I figured, well, we'll get a few racers, older people. Well, what's surprising is we're getting young kids. We got a 17-year-old Kobe Welch races with us. He's 17 years old and doing well, and we have some more coming this young, which is very impressive. But what surprises me more than anything is the amount of spectators that this deal draws. I mean, we're setting fan attendance records almost everywhere we go, and we're doing it by ourselves. We're not tagging along to another show. We're not going to Bowling Green Hot Rod Reunion and tagging along with that big deal. We're doing it strictly Southeast Gassers. When we roll into a track, there's nothing else goes on that whole day. It's just us. And so anyway, we're very proud of what we've done. We did definitely take the road least traveled. We've done it the hard way. I could be making a whole lot more money if I'd have just made it a bracket race or something, but our deal is first to finish line wins. We classify the cars by weight to cubic inch, just exactly like they did in 1967. So we're trying to mimic it as much as we can. There's a lot of challenges, but that's what we're trying to do.
Well, Quain, I think you're doing a stellar job, and I'm glad that your group and you are out there doing it, because it does provide, in essence, what is a reenactment of drag racing history.
Yep.
And you're not just seeing it in a museum, and it's not just a body, that's covering up a brand new combination. No, it's actual old combinations, and you can take someone that is a child and put them in that situation. They can see drag racing, what it was like. Or you can take someone like my dad, who was there when he was a young man, and he can experience it just like he was. So it's definitely stellar what y'all are doing. And Quain, we're going to come back to you and definitely have some more questions. Let me give a few shout out to some fans here. Scott, look, man, thank you for your support. Yes, I am doing well. For anyone that doesn't know, howdy is a conjunction of how do you do. So howdy, I'm doing well, man, doing well. Michael, look, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Sounding off. Keith Miller, Quain, you got a fan. He says, Quain is the man. going on through the comments here. Thomas, thank you for watching Evening from Penna. Hi, Joe. So we got one for Joe there, and Sam. Sam, look, thanks, man. You've been riding with me for a while now. Thank you for being a support. Look, speaking of Joe, let's bring Joe back in. Joe, so I was talking with Matt, the crew chief there on the Leverage Racing Top Fueler, and we were chit-chatting after Indy 2, the Summer Nationals, and he's like, man, we want to do Indy 3. We want to do Indy 3, but we got to find some support, and that support has been found. Talk to me about this insurance company, where they're out of. He's a racer himself, apparently, and races at Beaver Springs Dragway. I'm familiar with the Beaver, with Mike McCormick and Mikey, so I'm glad to hear, people who love racing helping a racer at the highest level, and they help racers with what they offer. So talk to me about it, man.
Yeah, it's a great program, man. So, yeah, Ed Krajewski with the Krajewski Agency, EJK Insurance. So I've known Ed, for a number of years now. And Ed started with a program recently with underwritten by Hagerty, which is certainly a well-known brand and a well-respected brand, to provide race car insurance. Most guys don't realize when they're towing their car to the track, they think that the race car is covered sometimes by the insurance on their vehicle, and that is not the case. And so Hagerty, through the EJK Insurance Agency, is providing coverage for your race car while you're on your way to the track, while you're in the pits. Believe it or not, God forbid something happens to the car in the pits. Well, that's going to be covered too. So you got to talk to Ed about the details, and it's ejkinsurance.com. But through support from their program with Hagerty, what we've done is not only are they helping us get to this race, but we put together a raffle. So if you go to ejkinsurance.com/giveaway, then you can enter a raffle to be a VIP with us during the Reading National event coming up in September. And you will get a behind the scenes tour. I'm going to kind of give you a Nitro Racing 101. We're going to allow the fans to be right there next to the car for the warm up and the ever famous Leverage Racing double throttle whack. And also, we're going to take care of feeding them. We're going to give folks a great day. So, as you mentioned, Ed is a racer at Beaver Springs Dragway. There are going to be two winners. One winner will be picked from Beaver Springs Dragway. There's a separate raffle. And then one winner will be picked at large. And so each winner gets 2 tickets to the Maple Grove National event, the Dodge Nationals, and that whole behind-the-scenes tour. And, boy, let me tell you, it'll be a lot of fun. And Ed, being a racer himself, and being an insurance guy, he put those two worlds together, and he's got this great program for guys with race cars. And quite honestly, with my Altered, I'm signing up for the insurance for my Altered. They don't cover pro teams, unfortunately. That's part of the deal. But for a backyard racer, man, and the guys that I hesitate to call backyard racers, right? Because you know as well as I do, right? Just to field any car, even your weekend bracket race, you better be darn good at what you do. So no disrespect meant to anyone. I mean, because look, man, I'm a old school racer myself, but it's a great program. Thanks to Ed at EJK Insurance. And again, it's ejkinsurance.com/giveaway. Now, races keep getting postponed. God forbid something happens and they either postpone or cancel. We're carrying that prize over to next year. So everybody who enters, and it's free to enter. You don't have to do anything, and you don't have to purchase race car insurance to enter the raffle. So anybody can enter. But if you're interested in finding out more about race car insurance, I say talk to my buddy Ed. You guys could even send me a message, and I'll connect you, because it's a great thing. It's a great, and it's, Lee, let me tell you, anytime you're able to have a sponsor that you truly believe in, and it's someone you know, like, and trust, that's the best of both worlds.
Yes, sir, it definitely is. I know exactly what you're talking about with my situation with Strutmasters and Chip Lofton having my back. So, Chip, if you're out there, thank you again, man. And look, racers, if you're out there, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you don't hope anything happens while your car is in or on the trailer or in the pits, but it can happen. It has happened. It will happen. And, yeah, Joe, I was just glad to have you on the show tonight to be able to make mention, hey, you need to be covered, because this is a a gap in coverage, just like flood insurance, but for racers. So, yeah, it's something you got to have. Something you got to have.
If you think about it, think about how much money we put into these race cars and to not have them protected. And I mean, these policies are a couple $100 a year. It's not like you're spending thousands of dollars on this. It's just a no-brainer. It's when Ed and I talked about it, I'm like, oh my God, I'd be stupid not to have it. And it's that easy a decision. So yeah, no, it's a great thing, and I just want people to know about it, because I have friends that I've raced with that have had problems, have had things happen. The car come loose in the trailer. A friend of mine is still rebuilding his Falcon now because of exactly this problem. So looking forward to hopefully growing that relationship, and maybe we'll be able to carry this forward. I mean, the great thing about what we're doing with Leverages is local businesses can actually end up on a Top Fuel car, because of being a low buck team like we are. Sponsorships within reach of some people that otherwise wouldn't think it would be possible. So it's a great thing, and I appreciate you for having me on the show, and yeah, I'm psyched to get back to Indy, to get back in that car in 2 weeks, and mash that throttle. And I think we discovered a little problem we had last time, like I mentioned to you on the air through the interview after the race. Obviously a fuel line break, and it was just a freak thing. And looking at the data, we got a good hot rod, and we'll get down the track. I feel very good about our chances of qualifying in Indy 3, and then let's see what happens.
Right. Let's see what happens. Very quickly, because we do want to transition into drag racing story time here in just a few moments. I've got to ask, how does it feel to be with the team that still gives the fans not one, but two throttle whacks?
Honestly, it's a dream come true for me. And let me tell you, I grew up going to the Summer Nationals at Englishtown. And to make my debut at the Summer Nationals in Indy it was fantastic, right? There were a lot of things that just made it just so right. But I remember the throttle whacks as a young guy walking around the pits or the track, and the dry hops. I mean, that's one of the things that attracted me to nostalgia racing, was doing the throttle whacks, doing the dry hops. When I was driving Ted Bryan's 134 Fuel Coupe, the fuel altered, and we were doing throttle whacks in the pits and dry hops. And man, it's just, like Quain's doing with the Southeast Gassers, man, those guys, Quain's doing it right. His organization is doing it right. So to be able to do that at the big show, oh man, I love it. Like Scott Palmer whacking the throttle. There's a couple guys out there that do it now. And Scott was one of the first guys to bring it back, but the Leverages have been doing it. And to be a part of that team, man, let me tell you, Gary, Dan, Bob Leverage, they are just some of the best people you would ever want to work with. I mean, I'm blessed to be with them. I got to tell you, I really, really am.
Man, awesome. I'm glad you're with them. I'm glad they're still providing some whacks out there in the pits, and that it's on the rise. Once again, I'm glad to see that, definitely, in the NHRA Nitro pits. Well, folks, look, we're going to step into some drag racing story time. So, Quain, Joe, get that best drag racing story that you've got filed away, pushed forward for the fans of Between the Slicks. And, folks, I'm going to give my little bit of a gasser story. So my dad, he'll probably never be on the show, but my dad has a strong connection to the gasser racing world back in the day. My dad was the right-hand man for Gene Cromer in the Moonlighter Willis. He was a crew chief, basically, and Gene and him traveled around from the mid-'60s and late '60s and did the match racing and, went up against guys like Fred Hurst. They had the funny car, and there was a Maverick later on. Anyway, he was in drag racing. Well, one of the stories they would tell me as a kid, I've heard it so many times, and hopefully I can convey it and it be enjoyable for everyone out there, is coming from one match race. It was late at night, and the guys have got the car on the trailer, the Willis, the 41 Willis Moonlighter, and they're heading back to wherever they got to get to, Anderson, South Carolina. And, lo and behold, they're going along, they're doing their thing, and all of a sudden, they notice, man, there's this car coming by them and attempting to pass them. And they thought it was strange. They were going along, moving along fairly well, and why are we being passed? And they realized, oh no, it's not just any car, it's actually the drag car. It had actually come off the trailer somehow. It's rolling down the road. They convey in the story that if they had had the ignition on, well, it would have fired up and went on. It was clunk, 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 clunk. It was ready to go. So they get ahead of it, and they actually corral the car and get this thing back on the trailer. I think they had to fish it out of a field, if I remember correctly. Look, maybe I can get my dad on one day. Maybe I can even get Gene on. Sadly, the memories aren't as good as they used to be, but there are some hilarious stories from the early days of drag racing. It's crazy what they used to do. It's a wonder that we even have anybody still doing it today, and that anybody survived. It is amazing. Folks, we're going to go to Quain here very quickly. He's going to give us that best drag racing story that he can give us. Michael, let me say real quick, Michael McCormick, are there technical difficulties? I'm not getting a picture. I just checked. I think it may be on your side. I've got a picture on my cell phone, and I've got a picture right in front of me. So check that out for me. Keep me updated. And let's go to K. Mike Benedict, best spectator drag racing bar none. I imagine he's talking about Sega. It is awesome to see. Southeast Gassers Association owner, promoter, founder, chief Quain. Look, man, I'm going to bring you on deck. Give me that best drag racing story.
Now, you should have warned me about that, because I've got so many of them I wouldn't know which one to tell. You'll have to come back to me, because when you said that, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm saying, Lord goodness, that 45 years of drag racing, there's just too many to pick through. I could tell a story about our first sponsors. I can tell stories about first win. I mean, I could go on and on. Let me give it a few minutes thought. Go to Joe and if Joe's got one in mind, let him go first, because I'm gonna have to give it some thought.
Hey, no problem, Quain. Give it some thought, and man, if it's one from your childhood and the Gasser days
speaking of the story you just told on Gene Cromer, I'm sure you know that I restored that car for Gene.
Right, you did.
Yeah, I restored that car in 2011. So it was sitting in a building, and probably not. I'm gonna try to make this quick, because it's probably the most rewarding thing I ever did in my life, because Gene was my childhood hero, and I traced him down in about 2009 or 2008. Didn't even know the man was even still living. And as I got older, I said, I'd like to find whoever it was that used to drive. I knew it was Gene Cromer, and I traced him down, and the car had been sitting since 1972, and it had been took apart, and it was a basket case, and it took me 2 years to talk him into it, and I restored that car back, and he actually raced it some. So anyway, that's something I'm very proud of that happened to me. Of all my championships and all the stuff I've ever done, probably the most rewarding thing I ever done is restored that car for that man, and now we're great friends. And I became friends with your dad because of that.
Right. And I know a lot of people have seen the restored Moonlighter up close, but if you have not, you need to, because Quain did a fabulous job. It looks so good. It's been brought back to its former glory. And folks, look, when he says it was all taken apart, he's not joking. So I can remember as a kid going into Gene Cromer's shop, not realizing as a kid what happened and what great place of power Gene's speed shop was. But I'm there as a kid, I'm there with my dad, and I'm talking to Gene Cromer, and the Moonlighter, the Willis, the 41 Willis, it was literally in a corner, like stacked on top of everything on itself. I mean, it was completely apart. It looked nothing like it did. So Quain, look, man, I commend you. You did an absolute fine job on that Moonlighter.
Yeah, he had actually taken the car, and they was building. When he quit working on it, he was making it into a street car. So everything of its racing history was almost gone, and we had to duplicate a lot of that. And I even used little holes where the rivets were to figure out where the sheet metal panels went. And we did a lot of research, and luckily found some pictures and got the car back. And and like I say, it was just amazing, and it's still. I hope to see it in a museum one of these days. It's where I hope to see it go.
I think that'd be a great place. I think that'd be a great place. All right, Quain, we'll come back
All
to
right.
you for that drag racing story. We want to hop over to Joe. So, Joe, man, look, I know you've got I'm sure you got a lot of stories you could bring to the table. So you bring whichever one you think is best. Go ahead, man.
I got a couple, that's for sure. So no, real quick question though. Do you want me to go with a funny drag racing story? Do you want me? I mean, I've got a couple of embarrassing drag racing stories that I don't mind sharing of times when I really screwed up and something funny happened. I mean, you tell me. What do you want? You want something funny out of a history thing, or you want a kind of embarrassing moment? Which do you prefer?
Sure, man. You mentioned embarrassing, and that you shouldn't have done that. Go ahead, fire away.
Well, listen, man, if you can't laugh at yourself, you don't deserve to be able to laugh at anybody else, right? So this happened. Actually, this is a recent one. And being that I'm driving for Rocky again this weekend, I'm going to talk about something that happened to me driving the Frantic Ford up at Lebanon Valley at the Dover Dragway reunion. Now, Rocky understands that when we're driving these nostalgia funny cars, we're there to put on a show. I mean, we're there to race. Don't get me wrong, because when that tree comes down, you better believe I want to win, right? Every time, all the time. But we're there to put on a show, and we love doing those big long burnouts and dry hops. So, man, I put that thing in high gear, and I'm like, I'm taking this thing past the 8th mile. And I got my foot in it, and man, she's screaming, smoking the tires, everything's great, man. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a great burnout. I'm like, the crowd's got to be loving it, right? Rocky's in the other lane. I'm like, oh man, I even went further than Rocky did on the burnout. I'm like, cool. So I reached down to put it into reverse. And as I reached down, I hit the mag kill switch with my glove. And there I am at 1,000 feet with a car that I just shut off. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm so pissed at myself at this moment. So I put the emergency hatch up and I'm waving my hand out of the top of the car, trying to get people's attention. I hear them shut Rocky off. I'm like, all right, good. They obviously know something's wrong because I ain't moving. The truck comes running down. They're like, what the hell happened? I'm like, I shut the damn car off. Get me back to the starting line. Come on, get me. And they like quick tow me back to the starting line. Rocky makes it run solo, and they let me come around. I do a short burnout, back up, and run the car and go through the traps at over 200 miles an hour. And all is fair in love and war. But yeah, I can't believe it. I do this fantastic burnout. And I reach down to put the car in reverse, and the tip of one of my fingers hits the kill switch on the way down. And I've driven that car dozens of times. There's no reason for me to do that. But hey, man, what are you going to do? I'm blessed that, well, my dad always told me, if you're going to make a mistake, just don't make that same mistake twice, right? Just don't make that same mistake twice. So I got to make sure this weekend my hands will be nowhere near that mag kill switch. So there you go. Embarrassing racing story from... driving a nostalgia funny car.
Well, man, look, you admitted something that I think probably every drag racer, whether on the track or not, has done at one point during their driving career. So thank you for sharing that with us and that story, even though it may have been embarrassing. Look, let me get to a few fans here and say thank you. So, Cole watching, he chimes in with, sup, dude? It's going great, man. And Billy, look, thank you for watching. Mario, man, great to have you in here as well. Folks, I want you to know that I am noticing your comments. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for watching. We're going to try to get to them all. If I do miss one, please forgive me, but we'll try to answer it after the show if I don't happen to get to it in the show here right now and live. Well, Quain, look, we're going to bring you back up on deck. What do you got for me, man?
Well, I just sat here and thought of the thousands of stories, and I thought I'd tell a story that might inspire younger racers that's trying to get involved in racing, because nowadays it's harder than ever to get involved in racing. And in 1997, I had been racing Pro Mod for 2 years, and I didn't have a sponsor. I was racing out of my pocket, and I had gotten myself in such a bind. And most racers know I was to the point I was about to lose my house because I hadn't paid my taxes. And we was going to Morocco, Indiana, at an NHRA race in Morocco, Indiana. And I had told my guys, I had a volunteer crew, and I told my girlfriend, Cynthia, that if we didn't qualify, I was going to have to quit, because back then they paid $1,000 to qualify, and that's what we got home on, and usually borrowed the money to get there. So we got to Morocco, Indiana, and sure enough, I didn't qualify. So I was going to stay good to my promise. I had the next race was Epping, New Hampshire, and on the way to Epping, we would always go a week early and stop by Carl Moyer's track in Eddyville, Iowa, and he would have a Quick 8 Pro Mod race, which paid $1,000 to qualify. So we would do that on our way to New Hampshire. And I had promised Carl I'd come to that race. So when I decided I was going to have to quit, I walked over to Carl's pits and I said, Carl, I'm going to have to go back on my word, buddy. I said, I'm not going to make it to your race. And he said, well, what do you mean you're going to make it to my race? He said, I said, I'm quitting. I'm going to park the Pro Mod car. And I can't afford it. I'm not going to lose my house over this deal. And he said, Quain, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, I'll guarantee you qualifying money, whether you qualify or not, if you'll come to my race. So I said, nah, that won't do it, because I'm going to be gone 2 weeks. Time I go on to New Hampshire. So I walked back to the motorhome, and there sat my girlfriend, Cynthia, on the steps of the motorhome crying. And I said, what's wrong with you? She said, I don't want you to quit. You've worked too hard to get to this point. And I said, well, we don't have a choice. I said, I'm not going to lose the house. She said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll loan you the money to pay the taxes on the house if you'll finish the year. This was 1995, I think. So I said, you know what? So I walked back over and I told Carl, I said, you know what, Carl, I'm going to come. So we did. We went on, and she paid the taxes on the house for me. I ended up qualifying at Carl's race, so he didn't have to give me the money. I earned it. We went on to New Hampshire. We qualified. We made a few rounds. Now the best part of the story, I came home. Within 2 weeks, I got my first major sponsor. So the moral of the story is, had I not kept digging, if I had quit, we would not be sitting here doing this interview today, because I would have never got that sponsor. My racing career would have been completely over. I would have probably went somewhere and got a job working in a mill or something. And all this history would not have happened. And so that, to just let people know, don't give up. When you have something that you want to do, move forward, work hard. Don't it will come at some point in time. You may think it's never going to get there, but it will. And I'm a perfect example of that, because I made a whole lot of money drag racing. It made me a very, very good living for a long time. And now we're doing what we're doing, preserving the history, doing our best to. And the same thing took place here. I didn't give up. I had people laughing at me, saying, "Oh, this Southeast Gassers will never work. This stupidest thing. You know, you can't have these kind of rules." And look where we're at now. We're going on our 10th year now, and it's working. So don't give up. That's my story. Don't give up. Dig in it. Make it happen. Make it happen. Things don't happen. You have to make them happen.
Well, Quain, look, thank you for sharing that, and I can agree with you. You know, I started all of this a year and a half ago, and there were times I slept in my car to go to a national meet.
Yep.
There was times I drove all night to go to a Beaver Springs dragway and film a no prep race. So, yeah, you got to put some time in. You got to put some effort in. If you keep digging, keep working, good things can come about it. And look, you mentioned, you know, Sega's been around 10 years, and people have said, oh, it's stupid, it's not going to go nowhere. Look, I want to bring up some of the comments I'm getting. And let me get through all these. These are great. Keith Miller says, Sega cars don't have buttons to shift gears. That's obviously a positive. K. Mike Benedict here says, best spectator drag racing, bar none. Let me continue. So you've got, here it is. Danny says, Sega, greatest drag racing today. Thanks, Quain. I think one of your guys is in here. Let's see, Nolan with the Falcon Crazy Sea-Gas in the house. He's watching.
Yeah, that's one of our guys.
Awesome. Look, listen to this from Dennis Moon. Southeast Gasser Association is the best racing around, all about family and friendly. competition. And here's another one. We're getting someone to chime in. Sherry, Sega, thanks, Quain. Go Spinny. So look, man, it's definitely taken off. I mean, as you said, you keep having more and more fans, and it's continuing to do well. With it doing well, with it taking off, with it going as long as it has, and congratulations on that. What does the future look like for the Southeast Gasser Association?
It looks good, but the hardest thing about this is that we're having, by keeping things correct, the hardest part is trying to keep people's interest without ever advancing. Now imagine this. NASCAR, modern day drag racing, there's always a new wheel coming out, or there's a new body style coming out, or there's a new engine coming out, and the ETs keep getting faster. We don't even show ETs. So, but we don't have new wheel. We're having to keep fans' interest with the same old show over and over and over again. So I was doing an interview here a while back and for a magazine, and they asked me, how do you do that? We keep the fans' interest the same way football, basketball, and baseball kept the fans' interest. If you think about it, those three sports have never changed. They've stayed the same. That football is the same football they used 100 years ago. That baseball is the same baseball. The bats haven't. They don't even allow advancing in any of this stuff. You keep people's interest with competition. That's what keeps their interest. We don't show the numbers because our cars don't really get a whole lot faster. They can't. We got them hemmed up to the old parts. So they go fast enough to keep the fans' interest, but you've got to have competition, stiff competition, and that's my job, is to keep it that way, and that's why we're so strict on everything. The three winners that we had at this last race, we quarantined them at the finish line. We wouldn't even let the crew members touch the car. We didn't let them stop at their pits. We followed them back to the staging lanes, and we field stripped them. We made sure those cars were 100% legal, and that's what keeps the competition correct, and that's what other promoters don't want to do. That's why it's easier to just have a bracket race, or just have match races, or just have a bunch of friends get out there and, what I call, have a big test and tune. You keep the competition close, and the future will always be there, and that's what we're counting on. I think the future is going to be good, but it is tough trying to advance and keep people's interest by using the same show over and over and over every year. But so far, it's been 10 years, and it's working.
It's definitely working, Quain. The formula, y'all have got it right. Y'all, that Premier League, going out there and reenacting the history of drag racing and doing it with intense competition. I've seen it myself, and it is amazing. These guys, with 4 speeds, launching with a wheel stand, and, the high revs. I mean, it's just amazing to watch, and I think that's why people are so in tune with it, and they're enthralled by it.
One of the things that keeps interest that people don't realize until they see our show in person is the cars handle so bad. They're so ill handling. The driver is busy from the starting line to the finish line, and we this is crazy, but we've even took the guardrail out of bounds. The center line's out of bounds, but the guardrail's not. We have racers that hit the guardrail and grab another gear. And we do not disqualify cars for hitting guardrails. So we went in Pro Mod, we called that the Frankie Taylor rule, because Frankie couldn't seem to get to the finish line without using the guardrail. So I think Kenny Nallins was the one at ADRL. He implemented the rule, and he called it the he called it the Frankie Taylor rule, because Frankie would use the guardrail to get down there. And we've done the same thing, and we've had several races won with the driver scrubbing the guardrail on his way down.
Oh man, the Frankie Taylor rule. That's amazing.
That's what we called it, the Frankie Taylor rule.
He didn't even need that rule at Dragpalooza in Texas. He coasted away to the win. It was amazing that what he was able to pick up.
You need Frankie on here, because he is one of the craziest guys. We called him Madman, and we called him that for a reason, because he was a nut.
Yeah, it seems like he definitely lives up to it. Great guy. I got to interview him there in Victory Victory Lane. He
Yeah.
definitely seems like a great guy. Yeah, I got to have him on. Look, we also got Joe on. So, look, Quain, I'm going to drop you out. Just hang on. We'll come back, and we're going to pick up Joe. Joe, look, got some comments towards your way. You're getting some love tonight as well. Let me bring up Mario. Mario works for Terry Haddock, and he's been out there in the Nitro Pits. You might even know Mario, for all I know. He says, helping Nancy Matters Racing in Iowa this past weekend, we gave the crowd 3 whacks. It was awesome. So, hey, Mario, thank you for doing that. I know Joe's got to appreciate that. And then, look, Billy Lawrence, he's been a long time bracket racer. He says this, we have it, referring to the insurance, on the truck, and also they have it on the trailer for the race truck, and he's out there bracket racing with the strutmasters.com bracket truck and doing a great job. And by the way, folks, remember Strutmasters does have air suspension for trucks. Check it out, strutmasters.com. Joe, look, talk to me about the licensing process to become a Top Fuel driver. I always want to ask that of the drivers who get their license. Talk to me about it. What was the experience like for you?
Well, it's funny. Everybody told me that it usually takes a little while. I've driven I licensed in Jerry Darian's injected nitro A-fuel car, and talking to some of my friends that are pros, and they said, look, the real difference, it launches a little harder, but it just pulls harder all the way down the track. So I'm thinking, okay. And I was also told, you're going to be behind the car. These things accelerate so fast that even guys that, race professionally for years, they finish up in Pomona, they go back to the Winter Nationals, and guys that have raced for years say they feel like they're behind the car a little bit. So I figured, you know what? I'm eagerly anticipating that feeling. What's that first full pull going to be? And man, we had one problem after another. I got to hand it to the crew because they never got to them. They just kept working. But the neat thing about it taking a little while to get licensed was that I had a lot thrown at me, and I was able to learn what these different situations feel like. I had a lot of different tire shake. I had tire smoke at the hit a couple of times. I mean, we really had a wide variety of things happening. And the fact that it all came together on July 11th, 7-11, I've talked about this story a little bit, about how it was my good friend Tim Charlay's, and he's, he was my co-founder with Right to Breathe. So, I mean, we've, known each other for years. So it's Tim's anniversary. Dina Mashburn, it was her birthday, although even though she had to leave, we had a bunch of nostalgia funny car guys working on the Top Fuel car in Maple Grove and getting it turned around. George Riedenauer, Bill Hodgson, Rocky Perone, Bobby Toth, Brian Golick. I mean, it was all a bunch of nostalgia funny car guys. And to finish up licensing at Maple Grove on July 11th. And again, Bill's wife, Jungle Pam Hardy, was there. I picked my competition number 171 because Jungle is 117. So there's more 7s and 11s. And my good buddy Jack Beckman's license number is 711. There was just too many coincidences. It was just a great thing. I somehow think that my dad was smiling down from heaven on me because, if I honestly look, man, if there was one thing I would have different would be to have my dad present for all of this, because I was working on trying to make this happen for years. Back to what Quain was talking about don't quit. That's so true. Again, for the fact that, look, I don't come from money. I'm a landscaper. I'm married with 4 kids. I mean, how do I end up in Top Fuel? I mean, if I can end up in Top Fuel, if you want to get there, and if you work hard enough and don't quit, you can get there. But boy, you got to be prepared to ride out and do things that, as far as, make sacrifices and go out and keep pounding on doors, even though, the answer is no. And you'll hear a whole lot more no than you will hear yes. But when that yes finally comes, it makes it that much better. And it's funny, looking back through all the challenges, not just with licensing, but just, really, it was 8 years, 8 years of constant effort. And actually, you can ask Bob Lawson from Kalitta Motorsports. Bob and I would talk all the time. We would talk regularly. I shouldn't say all the time, but Bob and I would talk regularly, and it would get to be at the end of another year, and I'm like, Bob, I didn't make it happen yet, so I guess I got to work smarter and harder. And every year that went by, I would work harder and I would learn more. And then again, another year of not making it happen. So I'd work harder and I'd learn. And it was, 8 years worth of working harder and learning to finally end up where I ended up. And the funny thing is, now the real work begins. Now I got to stay out here. So again, looking for those sponsors that love an underdog story, looking for those sponsors that want to ride the wave along with us. We're very blessed to have amazing team chemistry. And so people who want to have fun and go top fuel racing, well, we're the team for you, Not that other guys aren't out there having fun, but there's something special about this team. And I'm proud to be one small part of it.
Yeah, Joe, so the team, Leverage Racing, talk to me about the team. What does make them special? I mean, the Leverages have been out there for a long time doing this thing. They've had a lot of different drivers in and out of the car. What does the future for Leverage Racing and you look like? What are the goals? Is it, a assured 12 races a year? Is it a full, event schedule? What does it look like?
Well, so it's funny. We break those goals down into steps. And what do we want to accomplish next? And what's the next goal? Well, look, our first goal is to go out and qualify and have a shot at keeping somebody honest and maybe picking up a round win, maybe breaking a heart here or there. And so that's goal number one. How many races do we want to do? Well, look, if the situation's right with the sponsor, look, if we could do 10 or 12 events, that would be great. Personally, I would love to be full-time out there. And also, I know, look, Gary wants to get in the car, and I want to help make that happen. So if we can find a way to grow over time and make sure that Gary's able to get in the car, I think that would be a great thing. What makes them special? What makes the Leverage family special? It's funny. Just good people, temperament. I mean, Gary and Dan and Bob. I mean, they're. I haven't really seen them get angry yet. I mean, when we had some frustrating situations, and the way he handled it was calm, cool, and collected. Gary's a really smart guy, and really being able to be very scientific about how he decides what changes to make to the car. We've got good advisors, and Gary isn't afraid to listen to someone else, but he's also confident enough to know when he feels like he's in the right direction to keep moving in that direction, and that has been paying dividends. I'm blessed to have a lot of friends out in racing in general, and I've been very lucky to be surrounded by great people, and this team is no exception. Matt Hanley being the car chief on the car and kind of directing the crew. Matt has a great way of keeping everybody focused, and at the same time, like, we're having fun. And if someone's out there being a slave driver, you're not having fun, So we can all work hard, we can all be very competitive, and we can all laugh and have a good time at the same time, knowing that everybody is dead serious. And look, I'm trusting these guys with my life in this car, and I have, when I stomp on that pedal, I don't have a doubt in my mind that they've given me the best car they can, and that it's going to go down. Listen, it's going to get me to the other end safely, and that's a great feeling too. So, the team chemistry, the way that everybody gets along, the fact that we have a good time together. Like, honestly, have a good time together. That and the work ethic, and as hard as Gary and Dan and Bob work. I mean, all right, quick story. So we're licensing. One of the guys, Russ, that was working on the clutch, had to be home for work. Okay, Bob Leverage, and I don't want to get his age wrong. Okay, but let's just say he's north of 70. Okay, so Bob drives from Maple Grove, takes Russ, brings Russ back to Michigan, turns around. So he leaves Friday from Maple Grove, drives back to Michigan, comes back to Maple Grove, and is there for Saturday morning when we're ready to start making runs again. Now, come on now. Think about that. That's 20 hours of driving in just over 24 hours. And Bob was back there working on putting clutch packs together. So, he's a rock star, man. He's my hero. That's fantastic. I mean, that's the kind of love that these guys have for this sport. They love the sport. We all love the sport, and we're doing it because we're passionate about it. And yeah, we're the underdogs, but man, we want to go out and win something,
Man, look, that sounds like a stellar team, that there's passion and there is a camaraderie and just a desire to get out there and go drag racing. That just sounds stellar, because there's a few other teams out there. I'll leave the teams unnamed. I walk by their pits, and yeah, they're winning, but they look miserable while they're doing it. Whereas the Leverage, the Lex Junes, some of the other gangs in the Nitro pits, they look like they're actually having fun while they're out there and messing around with 10, 11,000 horsepower cars. So, Joe, look, thank you for your time tonight. Hang on, we're going to come back to you one more time and give you a last word for your fans for Indy 3 and what's coming up. We're going to go back to Quain. Quain, look, as I bring you back on, let me get a few more comments in here. They keep chiming in for you, buddy. You're a very popular man, and Sega is very popular. So, here's one. You can answer on this later. A fan of mine, he's been following for a while. He asks, I'd like to see Sega at Orlando, down there, Orlando Speed World. Ernie Smith, I think I'm getting this right. Ernie Smith, yeah, in the shop working on mine now and watching, boss. Talking to you there, Quain. And let's see. Ryan here, he mentions, it's always interesting, Quain, please don't change too much as Sega grows. They want you to stay the same. You're doing something right, man. You're doing something right. And look, this is a guy that I'm sure you're familiar with. He's a big supporter of mine. I'm very thankful to Mike Ashley. Yes, the Mike Ashley. He says, hey, I can't believe it's my old buddy Quain Stott. Love this guy. He's a hard-working, great guy and driver. Say hello to him for me. So Mike says hello to Quain. Quain, look, what was it like racing against Mike in Pro Mod back in the day?
Oh, Mike was always tough, and I think Mike and I raced together mostly with nitrous cars, and then when I switched to the blown car, Mike was still there. I struggle to remember. A lot of this stuff in my old racing career almost seems like another life. It's almost like that was somebody else, and I'm looking back on it. But Mike and I, we had a great relationship, and we enjoyed racing each other, and I'm glad to see. I think, Mike, you got your son out there racing now. I know you're enjoying that, and great to see you out there, buddy. I love it. And as for Orlando, I'll give you a quick rundown of one of the things that makes us successful. We never go in on top of any other nostalgia groups. My contract says that if a Southeast Gasser race, if you have a Southeast Gasser race at your track, you are not allowed to have any other type of nostalgia shows, because we don't want to flood the market anywhere. And my racing contract, my contract with the tracks is more strict than my contract or with my rules. And even with that being said, to show you how popular it is getting, we have right now 22 racetracks on the waiting list for our shows. We got 11 races a year, and we got 22 tracks on the waiting list waiting for us to come in. And that's even with us being as strict as we are. But in the same token, in the contract, I have it where I won't race within a 100-mile radius of any track that has our show. So not to, because you can flood the market real quick with this sort of thing. And I've learned that real quick. Matter of fact, I've seen that's what happened to Pro Mod. The market got flooded with it back in the old days. And, because we was having a match race somewhere within a 200-mile radius every weekend. And we flooded the market, and it killed it. So that's one thing we try not to do. So to answer that guy's question, why we're not in Orlando, Orlando already has some type of nostalgia show. And it's a great show. we just we don't go in and we don't tag along with any other shows. We never tag along. We do our own thing. So, but great hearing from Mike. I'm tickled that he chimed in. Hello, Mike.
Old racing buddies here on Between the Slicks, having some interaction. That's a great thing. That's what this show's all about. It's a drag racing talk show. Want to have some fun, rekindle connections, talk about the old days, talk about the future. And Quain, look, I'm going to close it out with you before we go back to Joe.
Before you turn me off, I want to
go ahead.
I want to tell Joe congratulations too for your Top Fuel deal.
I'll bring him in and go ahead, Quain. Look.
Well, Joe's story sounds a lot like mine because I struggled too, and I only wish you the same success that I had because drag racing was good to me. Everything I own now is because of drag racing, and very few people get the opportunity to make a living racing, and I was fortunate enough to do it. And I can tell you're a no give up guy too. So congratulations, and make me proud. I'll be following you.
Oh, thanks, man. I have a lot of respect for you and what you've done, and I've been following along with the Southeast Gassers for quite some time. And I want to say kudos to you for what you're doing for the sport because, man, there's nothing cooler than wheels up 4-speed gassers. I mean, that's just that's awesome. So keep it up, man. I think you're doing some amazing work.
I got a phone call about 4 years ago from Bill Bader Sr., who is my hero, runs Norwalk Raceway Park. He called me from his retirement home, and he said, I just got to tell you, you're doing it the way it ought to be done. And he said, you're saving the little guy racetracks because we got something that makes them money, and it don't cost them nothing to have us because we take a percentage of the gate. So anyway, what you said, I really appreciate that because that was one of our goals is to save the little tracks, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, one of many reasons why I'm going back to Island Dragway, and those guys know that I'll do everything I can for them because family history there, and there's a lot of people that as you know, right?
Oh yeah.
How many kids grow up at the track, and then all of a sudden something happens, that track is gone, and you never get them back. So it's so critical what you're doing, man. And I'm so thankful for what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. I think we both still have a future in racing, hopefully.
I sure hope so, right?
Right.
Thanks, Quain.
Thank you.
All right, Quain, man, look, to your fans, the competitors you have in Sega, if you might even want to say anything to the detractors, whatever you want to say, last word from you, Quain, here on Between the Slicks.
I don't know. I don't have much else to say other than thank you all for listening. Give Sega a chance. If you know, a lot of our problems is there's 30-something other gasser organizations in the United States. Don't judge us. You know, I have people all the time that say, "Oh, we've done seen the gassers before. They don't interest us." Don't judge us until you've seen us because we definitely do it very, very different. And so, you know. Give us a chance. If you hadn't seen Southeast Gassers and we come to your area, come out and see us, give us a chance. And if we don't impress you, let me know what was wrong and we'll try to do it better next time. And thank you for having me on tonight. I appreciate it.
Well, Quain, look, thank you for being on. I count it as an honor. You've done a lot in the sport of drag racing from there in the mid-'70s on up and so many different things. And, whether it's, touching the Moonlighter and bringing it back to prominence, bringing some joy back to my dad and Gene and what you're doing to bring in joy to drag racing fans really across the world with how far Sega can reach through social media and at the local track. So thank you, man.
Yeah,
and thank you for being on. And we're going to continue to follow it and looking forward to Sega just continuing to grow and get better and better.
Speaking across the world, there's a guy in Sweden right now building a car in 2021. He's shipping it over here, and we're going to have a Sweden racer racing with us next year.
Man, that's awesome.
Building a car to Southeast Gasser rules, and it'll be shipped over here. I think it's going to be stored somewhere in Alabama, and he's going to be flying back and forth from Sweden to our races in 2021.
That is cool. That is cool. It's so fascinating how I know you're the Southeast Gasser Association, but you're really the premier international group.
Oh yeah, we would have named
really
it
are. You
different.
really are.
We would have named it something different had we known it was going to do what it's doing.
Right,
We had no
right.
clue. We didn't intend for it to go this far. The name would have been something totally different.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, hey, I'm glad it's gone as far as it has, and I'm sure it's going to go even further. Quain, thank you for your time. Look, hang out in the waiting room, all right, man? We'll talk to you later.
I'll hang out.
Joe, look, you're up. Last word for fans, competitors, drag racers alike. Give it to me, man.
It's funny, being a big fan of Jungle Jim and being a big fan of the funny cars back in the day and the Top Fuel dragsters. Jungle Jim used to say drag racing is far out. And, that term is so dated. I get that, man. I mean, that's technically, it's practically before my time. But I will say this, more than anything else, and drag racing is just an awesome sport. I'm honored to be a part of it. I love doing it. It's something that I've loved my entire life. Really, really, truly have. And the ability to actually be out here doing it, it's a dream come true. So wouldn't be happening without some good friends and good sponsors. Of course, the guys that are sponsors on the car, High Tech Cam, Superior Engine, Mark's Mixers. These guys they're the ones that help us make it happen. EJK Insurance, of course, and Ed coming on when we really needed some early help, and he came up big, and the help of my friends, Rocky Perone and Bobby Toth and Brian Golick, and then the whole team. It's just great to be racing with friends, and honestly, look, man, if all I had to race was a Volkswagen Beetle, I'd be out there on Sunday racing that thing, banging gears. So man, it's an honor to be here. Lee, thanks for having me out, and I really appreciate all our partners that have been helping us out. And there's a couple folks we're talking to that we'll see what happens in the future, but we're excited to maybe be announcing some new things coming up soon. So anybody's in New Jersey or anywhere close to New Jersey this Sunday, come on out to Island Dragway. Go online. You got to sign the COVID release form and all that fun stuff. But man, drag racing's alive and well. It really is, and we need to keep these local tracks open, like what Quain's doing with the Southeast Gassers. So, if you're anywhere near Island Dragway, come on out and say hello. We're going to have some great funny car racing. It's going to be close racing, some good competition, and man, I would love to see people come out and support the track. So, come on out.
All right, Joe, look, thank you for your time. Man, you're certainly no average Joe. You're getting it done in Top Fuel there in the nostalgia ranks as well. Thank you for being on Between the Slicks, and we look forward to seeing you at Indy 3, man. Take care.
Thanks.
So, drag racing fan, this will conclude Between the Slicks here on Monday Morning Racer. I am the Monday Morning Racer, Lee Craft. Thank you for watching. Many of you watching for the first time. I want to point out my buddy Mario. He works on Terry Haddock's race car. He says, I finally got to catch the show, Lee. Mario, you sure did. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for watching. Folks, this has all been brought to you by strutmasters.com, which is now offering air suspension for trucks. Check them out at strutmasters.com. Partners like Gearhead Coffee and also Hero Soap Company. Check those guys out as well. And come back right here on Monday Morning Racer for Between the Slicks. Check out the YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter for drag racing and motorsports information from me, yours truly, the Monday Morning Racer. Until next time, God bless and keep the pedal to the metal.